Are you broke right now and you want to get started in wholesaling and you feel like you have no options to get started? Well, I just got off a live presentation on my personal Rick In YouTube channel where I broke down the 5 options for anyone who wants to start wholesaling with absolutely no money at all. No experience, no cash, no credit. I have my media team chop up that information to get you the best info possible with absolutely none of the fluff. So before I get into it, do me a favor, make sure you smash that like button, hit that subscribe button so you can get more great free wholesaling content just like this. So let's get into it. So do you need money to start wholesaling? Here's about the only things you would be the most powerful tools you can use to start wholesaling. And I'm going to do them in order. Number 1, a cell phone. I'm not sure how you could do this without a cell phone. Now, you can have dialers with like Google Voice and stuff like that on your computers. And if you're broke as what, you know what, then maybe you need to do this option. You guys, there are amazing resources. You know, me and Zach have people at the library, people that are almost homeless, and they go there to do their wholesaling. Why? Because they're extremely resourceful. And so you guys complaining about, oh, I don't have money to pay for leads. I'm talking about people that don't even have phones. They go to the library, figure to use an online, either a Google Voice, and they get it done with headsets. How? I don't know. I think that's amazing. They also don't have a computer and they use the internet to do all their searches in the library. Most libraries are open 10 or 12 hours a day. So if you say you have an excuse, I'm going to challenge you, especially if you go, Rick, I don't have any money. I don't care. You have a life, which you hit the lottery. So if you're alive, thank God right now and start from there. Stop saying what you don't have and start looking at what you do have. But let's talk about what you really do need. The 2 things that are preferential for wholesaling. Number 1, a cell phone if you have it. It makes it a lot easier. And number 2, some sort of computer would be great. Now here's a really cool thing. For $100, $150, you can get basically what I call a disposable laptop. It might be Google, it might be Android, it might be a piece of junk, but all it has to do is connect to the internet and you can get it done. Most smartphones act as a computer anyway, so you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You don't need a $1,200 phone to do this. You can get away with a $100 phone. It's not complicated. As long as you can text, email, and connect to the internet, that's all you really need. Now, in a perfect world, I'd like to throw in a car, but I know that's 50-50. I know some of you younger don't have a car. It's not required, but it does make things a little bit easier. But a computer / laptop, or if you can combine it all into one, I know some of you guys use like tablets and stuff like that. That's great. That's as far as you need to go. If you are spending any more money on anything else, it is not a requirement in wholesaling. Why? Because that's how I started out. I had a basic computer. I did have a car. I'm not going to lie to you on that one. And I had a cell phone. Those are the tools of the trade. Everything else is a luxury item, and unless it enhances you to make more money, do this. Use the basic tools you have first, get a deal, and then take some of those profits to help you step up your game moving forward. You cannot buy your way into wholesaling. And honestly, I watch more people who spend money in wholesaling. They think they can just buy their way in. They're all going to go through the same journey as an 18 or 17-year-old kid as a 35-year-old grown man. And honestly, I find people who spend money, they can actually get more, they get frustrated because it's the same journey. You can't buy your way into this. I watch people try to do it all the time. That's not wholesaling, that's speculating. So the answer is definitively no. You don't need money for wholesaling. I will stake my entire claim on this. You don't need it. Does it make some things easier? Yes, but here's the problem with it. You don't know how to talk to people yet. You don't understand the flow of a wholesale deal, and you have no experience doing it. So why not start with little to no money so you can go ahead and get those experiences? Because once you get those experiences under your belt, then when you spend money on marketing, you actually can do serious damage. The problem is if you are brand new to wholesaling and say you buy somebody's coaching program and then they tell you to go out and buy $5,000 in direct mail or PPC, here's the problem. You don't know how to talk to those people. And even if you do know how to talk to those people, you're going to be nervous and you're most likely going to screw up the deals and it's going to cost you a fortune. So I like my methods. I'm going to share it with you. But remember, there's always multiple paths to wholesaling. I'm talking to those of you that are broke as you know what. And you go, hey, Rick, how do I do this? Let's just dive into it. And guys, you can always do more, I promise you. So let's talk about our options here. If I don't have any money, how do I attack wholesaling? So number one, as I said, make sure you go over to freewholesaling.com. I go into this grave detail. I only have so much time to teach this. So option number one, cold calling, is simply picking up your cell phone and calling people. But Rick, how do I get their phone number? I'm going to go over it in the list section. But cold calling is a method you contact motivated sellers. you are going to have to skip trace them. Now, every guru in the entire country is going to tell you have to pay for skip tracing. If you don't have money for skip tracing, guess what? It's 10 to 12 cents per skip trace. Or you can go online, you can do it manually with a Google search, or you can use truepeoplesearch.com. You can use White Pages. You can use Spokeo. I think it's a $10 or $20 service, but that goes outside of our free parameters. Bottom line is you're going to have to put some sweat equity in looking up these phone numbers. It sucks. It's time consuming, but we don't have a lot of money. And honestly, after you get your first deal or two, I would set some money aside for skip tracing because then you can go much faster. And you'll see why it's 10 or 12 cents per lead because you got to call multiple ones. So cold calling by far, and you can actually do cold calling without a car. That's why I do it first. It's very scalable. It can go very fast. And honestly, there's no expense other than you taking in the time. And as long as you have a cell phone service that you can reach out to it, guys, I can't give an easier way to get started in wholesaling with like little to no money. That's why cold calling is so popular in wholesaling, and that's why you have to understand it. Option number 2, I see your questions, guys. I'm marking them all. Driving for dollars and reverse driving for dollars. So simply number 1, option number 2, driving for dollars is just get in your car and looking for ugly houses, look for high grass, boarded up windows, blue tarps on roof, knocked over mailboxes, or like really badly damaged properties. Oh, by the way, I could just charge you $3,000 for that course. I just gave you a course for $3,000. I'm not kidding you. There's entire courses on driving for dollars. We teach it all for free at freewholesaling.com. To me, that's not even a course. Why would you pay for someone to tell you how to get in a car and look for an ugly house? If you can't grasp that common sense trait and you're going to pay $3,000 for that, you're going to have bigger problems in wholesaling, I promise you. The second part of this is reverse driving for dollars. And this is taking one of our lists, which I'm going to do after this section. You get a list, you look up the property appraiser site, you find the address, and then you drive by there and you leave a sticky note on the door. So you do a yellow sticky note, you can do a pink, you can do purple, knock yourself out. Some investors put stamps on them, which is really cool. Or you can just handwrite it and say, hey, got a quick question about your house, give me a call. And you put your phone number on there. It's that simple. You put out 100, 15 people call you back, 3 or 4 you have a conversation, 1 or 2 you meet with, and that's how you do a deal. You can kind of reverse the process because in the old days, why we call it reverse driving for dollars, is I used to go and drive and knock on 100 doors. It takes a lot of time to knock on 100 doors. And you have a lot of ridiculous conversations. So I'd like to tell you I came up with this idea, but somebody else came up with it. And it's just more efficient. And the advent today of Ring doorbells and nobody wants to answer the door anymore, and a lot of laws against door knocking, this is a way to circumvent it. So definitely take that. Now, option number 3, often overlooked but never forgotten about, is joint venturing, which is nothing more than partnering up with someone. Now, I will tell you this. Joint venturing, most of the time it winds up when there's a new wholesaler in the game and then they have a deal and then they partner up with a more senior wholesaler that's got experience, someone like me. The problem is you can be taken advantage of if you don't know what you're doing. Make sure you have a written agreement. Go over to freewholesaling.com to check one out. I mean, joint ventures are pretty straightforward. You typically want a 50-50 agreement because that way both people have to work together. Now, sometimes you have to do 60-40, something like that, or 65-35 because the other person's putting up money. Maybe they're not doing an assignment. But I'm here to tell you, make sure you have a agreement in writing, not just verbal. And once you have it signed, you give it to the title company that is pulling title for that deal to make sure you're always in the chain of being paid on it. If you skip this step in doing a joint venture, you most likely will get screwed over. And by the way, you never know when someone's a bad joint venture partner until after the closing. You know how it's bad? They ghost you. They are worse than a motivated seller. Or, oh, no, I'm going to mail you a check. If you do not get paid the day of the closing, you are never going to get paid from them. Guys, I've been stepped on, 50 times. That's how bad it is out there. Heck, I have people in Flip with Rick and sellmypaper.com. They do it to me. I'm like, hey, you want to screw me? It's a small world out there. So I prefer 50-50 agreements because everyone feels like they have the ability to work with it. And honestly, the best way to do it is if you find a deal and you don't know what you're doing, you're not comfortable. If you can't do it through sellmypaper.com, find somebody in your local market, work with them and do a 50-50 agreement. And also look over their shoulder while they're working on a deal. It's a great way to learn wholesaling. You learn wholesaling much more when you're engaged working on deals than sitting in a beautiful hotel having people teach you theory. Now, I do that, But honestly, I much prefer working on a live deal. And honestly, it's my favorite thing to do. When somebody calls me inside of Flip with Rick Plus and they call me with a deal, it's my favorite thing to do. I get super excited. I'm like a kid. I love wholesaling. One of these freaked out people. Like, I really enjoy this. I've been doing this 21 years. I'm not into it for the money. I'm into it for the freedom and the financial freedom. But honestly, I might do this. I've done a lot of deals for free. I've helped out so many people in this business because sometimes it's just the right thing to do. I love joint ventures. I still do joint ventures. I've done joint ventures since I started in my first year. The problem is you do joint ventures with other wholesalers. Make sure you have that agreement. It's signed and you give it to the title company, and it's very, very black and white with everything. So, okay, we are moving along. I promise you. Let's see here. The next one. Oh, okay. Digital bandit signs. Once again, if you want more detail, I'm not going to go on all the details on this. You can go over to freewholesaling.com. This is basically where we take our bandit signs and we put them out digitally. And we teach you how to infiltrate groups you're already organically involved in. And once you have trust and rapport, just like me and Zach teach you in wholesaling, it is the perfect opportunity to work with people of like mind to see if they need help selling a house, or you got a house you got to sell. This is perfect. I can help you out with it. And it works out well. How this does not work out well is if you spam. Like when we get people coming and wholesaling houses for real, and their first comment is, where your deal's at? I got cash buyers in all 50 states. I know what you're doing. I know whose program you bought, and you will be blocked instantly. And you'll be blocked 95% of the time of the groups that actually pay attention. Don't be that person. The Digital Bandit Signs teaches you how to go into groups organically and get leads. And it's a proven method. And here's the cool part. It's 100% free. But you got to follow it step by step or it doesn't work. If you try to just go out there and join 100 groups in one day and then post in every one of them, you're wasting your time. I think we all can admit right now, nobody's doing that anymore. So once you're considered a spammer, nobody wants to work with you. And so you want to make sure you work that way smartly with it. Option number 5. Now, a lot of you guys don't hear this from me, but it's all in freewholesaling.com. Garage sales. I love garage sales. Now, I know what you're thinking, crap, is Rick buying junk at a garage sale? I'm not. I teach a method where you can actually go into a garage sale. Not actually, you don't even have to go to the garage sale. You're looking for the event of the garage sale. You can look for them online in Facebook groups, Craigslist. Get a list of all your garage sales and basically find the owner of record of that garage sale. Make sure they're not having a garage sale every weekend. And simply cold call them or send them a letter, or I wouldn't put a note on the door because it has a renter there, and just see if they have interest in selling the property. The key secret in this is there is a huge correlation between garage sales and when people sell a property. Now, a lot of times the garage sale is actually being held by the tenant, and when you contact the landlord, they're not even aware of it. So when you go, hey, listen, I noticed you're having a garage sale, just seeing if they're, what do you mean I'm having a garage sale? Yeah, it's your property on 123 USA Street. He goes, oh my God, I've been having problems with them. A lot of buying properties from tired landlords is timing. The garage sale is a pre-indicator that they have a midnight move out going on their hands. And when that property's empty and there's a pile of garbage on the curb, and I've been a victim of this dozens and dozens of times, if somebody told me there's a garage sale going, I would have got fired up, especially when I was younger and I had a lot of rental houses. So I'm here to tell you is garage sales are huge. And I'm not telling you to do the Gary Vaynerchuk going around doing garage sales, which I think is pretty cool, by the way, is you basically cold call them. Hey, I saw you're having a garage sale. I just wonder if there's any interest in selling the property. I buy them for cash. I was looking for an extra one in that neighborhood. That's it. And if they say yes, that's great. Usually they go, oh my God, I can't believe they're moving out. And then if you can help them with information, it works really, really well. And I got a lot of deals doing it this way. The other one are bail bondsmen. A lot of you don't know this. Bail bondsmen is basically when someone gets arrested, they have to post a bail. And so if the bail is $10,000 or $100,000, a bail bondsman basically sells an insurance policy. And the insurance policy says, you pay a 10% premium and I'll put up the money, and as long as you show up in court, the bond's fulfilled and they get their money back, and that's how they make a living. So if it's a $10,000 bail, they put up $1,000. A lot of times grandma or mom will put it up, and maybe they don't even have the money, and they put a lien on the house. And these bail bondsmen only take first positions most likely. And I found this out once by doing a short sale. And then from the short sale, I visited the Bill Bondsmans. And after 4 or 5 visits, I wound up buying 3 houses from them because of a lien. Now, I will tell you, bail bondsmen are very educated people and they know the market well. But most of the time, they just want to get their premiums back. They don't want to buy the house. So you can work with bail bondsmen because there's a lot of people who get in trouble and they got to put their house up as collateral and they can never make good on it. And they work really well. Don't try to rush a bail bondsman. You have to spend time and get to know them. And most bail bondsmen are handed down generation to generation. The ones we have in our local area, they're passed down 2 generations. They've been in it over 50 years. Really cool stuff. So don't be like a know-it-all when you go into them. Just say, listen, if you got any real estate, you need help, because they foreclose on it and they take over real estate all the time. So definitely want to talk. Don't skip them. They work. They're really cool how a lot of it works. So let's talk about the list. This really get down. Let's get down to the most important part. If I'm going to go out and learn wholesaling for free, I've taught you the vehicles to easily attack them. Now we have to cultivate the list. They go, but Rick, these lists cost money. I got to go to ListSource, Melissa Data. I got to get an account with PropStream. I got to go over to Batch. You don't. You honestly don't. Absolutely not. That's a crutch people use. Now, if you have some of these list services, they help out wonderfully. But the reality is you don't need them. I didn't use them. You can easily get through it. Let me show you how to do it. So the first one, and honestly, I'm not going to, I guess I'll, I'm not going to do them order importance. All these I give you are ones you have to do. Code violations. Every city, every county has them. Code violations, basically, when you're not mowing your lawn and the neighbor tells on you or the city drives by, you get a notice to correct the problem, and if you don't correct the problem, you get a fine on your house, and they put a lien against it between $50 and $100 a day. Why is it so great? Because as a wholesaler, I'm looking for the most motivated people. You've already understood that if you want to be a realtor, you got to list people's houses. We're not realtors. We're looking for distressed properties and owners that need to sell now. So you got to look for lists. And MLS is not a list of motivated sellers. It is complete opposite. So when you go and look on it, you're going to struggle with that list. And if you buy a program on it, I promise you're going to be disappointed with it. MLS is not a place to wholesale. So if you want to be a glorified realtor or a pretend wholesaler, go ahead and do the MLS strategy. I'm just telling you, I've never met someone that has an amazing success just doing MLS that didn't have a license and previous experience doing it. It is not for the newbie. So the best thing to do is the code violations. Where there's smoke, there's fire. Where there's motivation, you got to hunt. A lot of times these people, because their grass is high, nobody lets their grass grow high because they think it's cool. It's either they're out of money or there's a very stressful situation going on in their life. Either way, I want to help them out. It's not normal. It pisses the neighbors off. It pisses the city off. So remember, we are trying to create value here and help people out. And the worst thing to do is when the grass gets high, now it's a couple $100 to cut it. And then they get a lien filed against their house for $50 to $100 a day. True story, I've seen a cut the grass bill go as high as $10,000 to $30,000. To me, it's ridiculous. Did you know a lot of times when they cut the grass, it is the homeowner's responsibility to call the city or the county to have it re-inspected to get it off their list? And if they don't call, they automatically go on the special magistrate and they have a hearing. And if they don't show up because the homeowner never was out, they record that $50 or $100 fine. So I helped the lady out once. She had a $30,000 fine. Her husband passed away. She moved out of Florida. They told her the grass is high. She cut it and then she left it alone for 10 years. And she had her sister living in the house. And then when she went to sell it, I found her on the code violation list. She goes, I didn't even know that was going on there. Now, I'm sure she knew, but she just didn't want to deal with it. Guys, code violations, they're a game changer. They really work. They're always going to be around. Here's the challenge with a lot of these lists. You're going to get some resistance. And if anything in wholesaling, you got to understand, if you want to do what 95% of the world won't do, you have to have a different breed. You have to be much tougher. So most people that get an objection, they fold, they cave. You can't do that here. And I teach it all on freewholesaling.com. If you can overcome someone's objection at least twice, you have a much higher probability of getting what you want in life. Most people go, hey, can I get this? No. And they leave. 85% of people will just walk out the door. As a wholesaler, you have to just keep pounding till you get what you need to do. And here's the key. Getting this list, you have to be nice with it. How do you do it? To overcome resistance, you got to be persistent, period. End of story. And you're not going to get every one of these lists. But if you get these lists, you're in a much better direction on it. I love code violations. I would never operate a wholesaling business without doing them. Next one is tax delinquencies. These are people that are behind on their real estate taxes. And every state's a little bit different. I'm not going into details, but tax is always in a first position, even above the first mortgage. And eventually the taxes have to get paid. Let's face it, when people aren't paying their taxes, once again, it's a stressful situation and they don't choose not to pay their taxes. Maybe it's a loss of job. Maybe it's a loss of a loved one. Maybe it is an illness. This is when people need help and they want options because this doesn't go away. It only gets worse with interest and fines and stuff like that. You guys know, the eviction list. Now, here's the really cool part. The eviction list is posted at least 2 or 3 times a week. It's at your county courthouse. An eviction is nothing more than a landlord evicting a tenant out because most likely they're not paying the rent or they've done damage to the property or they're not complying. And trust me, I've been on this list a lot and I've sold properties off this list because I just get tired of it. So I love this list. And here's the really cool part of this list. They are lawsuits. They are public. You should not get much resistance getting this list because you can go online and search for them. So my recommendation is go down to your local county courthouse, ask for that eviction list, and get it. To me, it's one of the easiest lists to get. Now, I'm going to go from the easiest list to the hardest list. Ready? One of the hardest lists. We'll go through the hard list right now. Probates. Once again, this is going to be at your county courthouse. There is a probate court. And probate's nothing more than the process when somebody passes away. In order to sell the house, the deceased person obviously can't sign the deed. So the court will appoint a person in charge of it. This is someone that's usually mentioned in their last will and testament, or it's up to the courts to decide. This person's called the PR, the personal representative, or the executor. And that person has the same power to sell, lease, rent, do whatever they want with the house. And our job is to connect with these PRs and see if they'd like to sell us the house for cash for a quick sale, no hassle. Now, probates, hands down, are the most profitable deals you'll do in wholesaling. Why? They're vacant, they're run down. Listen, the person that was living there, it might have been an end-of-life situation like grandma, and what most responsible people do is they take care of the person first. We can deal with the house later, and a lot of them are out of state, and when they pass away, they don't want to pay the mortgage, they don't want to pay the utilities, they don't want to cut the lawn and keep the air going, so why not? Probates, most people are very motivated when you get them there. Now, it's slow, and there's not a ton of them per county, but honestly, if you're extremely consistent with it, you will get very big deals. This is not something you want to try for 30 days and quit. If you're going to do that, don't do it at all. If you will do probates for a year, they work well. They're not hard. And you go, Rick, what's the cost? There is no cost. You got to get this list. That's going to be the hardest part. And number 2, you got to cold call them, skip trace them with TruePeopleSearch.com and just reach out to them. That's it. It's not complicated, guys. I love doing it. I've done multiple deals in the 6 figures on regular single family houses, not even commercial deals, all from probates. Why? Because they were extremely, extremely motivated. Now, let's keep digging in the harder list. Water shutoffs. Basically, if you have a public utility company, it has to be public. If it's private, you're probably not going to get it. And basically get a list of anyone who shut off their water. Rick, why do I want people's water? A list of people shut off their water. Listen, where there's smoke, there's fire. If people are shutting off their water, you can't do a lot in the house, and nobody shuts off their water because they want to just save a few bucks. It means you probably have a pretty bad situation going on, and most likely they're going to have to sell the house out. If you can't pay the water bill, don't worry about the mortgage, the utilities, the insurance, because it's not going to happen. And God knows you're not taking a shower using the bathroom in these houses. So there is a direct correlation with people shutting off waters. That's why we like this list. This is probably one of the hardest lists to get, and it's 50-50 at best. So understand going into when you're getting this list. The other one is your fire damage list. In fire damage properties, guys, they're amazing. I just watched a big fire the other day. 4 units burnt down, some sort of electrical fire. These things happen all the time. Most investors run from fire damage because they don't understand it. Now, it takes a different type of buyer to buy fire damage, and you have to spend more time selling them and look for cash buyers that are okay dealing with fire damage properties. But if you do that, how do I get the list? Ready for this? This is right up your free alley. You just go over to your fire department and ask for the list, or make a phone call and ask really nicely. Now, please don't beat up your local fire department because they do a job that most of us would never even try to do. So I give them all the credit in the world. Be super nice because we need more firefighters and they're not used to dealing with us investors. So let's be the nicest representation we can to them. And I think it would be a big help. And the last one are just public liens. And you guys can look these up. Yes, you can use services. They make it much easier, but you can look up public liens. People have recorded private mortgages. Municipalities that have recorded liens. You can just look for individual liens that are recorded against a house, because eventually if those liens don't get paid, the property is going to go to foreclosure and it's going to wind up on that list. And the one list I forgot to put on here, which I'm just going to spit it out with the courthouse, is your foreclosures. Very public list. You'll have zero resistance getting it. Most likely you can get it online. Those people, the best way to contact them is simply cold calling them. You just skip trace their number through truepeoplesearch.com and you call them, and just the sooner you connect with them, the better off you're going to do. And foreclosures are not the easiest, but they're free lists. And guys, I'm only giving you about 3/4. Actually, I probably give you half of what I can do for free. I can go all day on free. You can use realtors. There's two ways. Either you attack them on their tired and old listings. That's the only way to deal with MLS. Never ever attack a fresh listing unless you have inside knowledge or you know the broker or the agent. But wait till the listing's 3 to 6 months old and you have multiple price reductions. That's the only way I deal with them. Or the realtor's like, please bring me an offer. I can't find an offer. That usually means there's something wrong with the property and retail buyers can't deal with it. Remember, we are wholesalers. The realtor world is all about retail. So we're completely different how we do it. The second way you work with a realtor is what we call preconditioning them. And basically you meet with a realtor that loves real estate, they have interest in investing, and say, listen, anytime you come across a property that's really run down, worn down, here's an example. Your client buys a beautiful property and they're super happy, and then 10 years they come back later and go, hey, Sally, will you sell it? Sally's all excited. She comes back and looks at it. She's like, oh my God, this property's like, it's run down. You didn't paint it. The person didn't maintain it the whole time. They're like, Sally, I'm in a jam. I just need to get it sold. Sally's like, listen, I don't know if I can put it on MLS like this. You're going to have to spend some money and fix it up. If you precondition Sally, you say, listen, when you have these types of properties, if you call me, I will make you a cash offer and I'll pay your full commission up front. And then I'll possibly consider relisting it with you, but a lot of us are going to wholesale it via assignment of contract. And that's all you need to do. That's the only way you work with realtors. If you think you're going to go on MLS and call 100 realtors to see if they're going to sell your property at a deep discount, I can think of a lot easier things to do in life. To me, that's suicide for a new investor. I think it's an absolute terrible way to start in the wholesaling, and you shouldn't do that. So guys, that is it.